saves, the only one that can guarantee salvation, the only one who offers true security and assurance. You can do your best, as that what Islam's teaching is. Do your best. Well, that's good. But my best will never be good enough. And that's why we need Jesus. That's why we need Jesus. And of course, we into our third week, I suppose, of the question is, do you know him? Not know about him. That's good. But do you know him? You see, I know a lot about the Queen. I like the Queen. And I can tell you this and that. I can tell you her birthday. And I can tell you maybe some of her dislikes and likes. But if I were to say, I know her, I've met her, no. And will I ever meet the Queen? Probably not. She's not going to invite me up to a garden party, really. So the difference is stark, isn't it? To know. And that's so vital to know him. There was a big exam, end-of-year exam in university, a big auditorium, maybe about 300 students. Do you want to keep you two warm? Good? No? And about 300 students, and the professor was invigilating, and he gave all the papers out. And 2-hour exam. That's an easy exam, 2 hours, isn't it? And at the end of 2 hours exam, he said, your time is up, put your pens down, it's finished. And of course, they all went by and they put and of course, it was a stack of papers, and he was going to separate them out maybe in 3 piles of 100. And as they all left, there was one student still writing down, and he went, coughed, didn't even look. Excuse me, sir, your time is up, put your pen down and come and bring your paper down. Ignored him. Didn't bat an eyelid. And of course the professor was quite annoyed now, because insubordination. So he thought, okay, I'll let him finish it, and as soon as he brings the paper up to the up here, I'll rip it up and give him an F. And he thought, oh, I'll sort him out now. And 20 minutes went by, and the student finished, and he waltzed up to the desk, and he said, I finished, he said, what do you think you're doing? He said, do you think I'm going to accept that paper now? You were joking. And the student said, do you know who I am? And the professor said, I don't know and I don't care. So he picked up a pile of the papers, stuck his exam paper in the middle of the pile and walked out. So it is good to be anonymous sometimes. But to be known by God. A doctor was driving through a village once, and he was on a trip, and really high up doctor. And as he was driving through this particular village, there was something going on, and he got out of the car. He wanted to stop, and there it was like one of the yokels, and he had his dog doing all these tricks. He thought, wow, that's amazing. This dog was doing everything he was telling him to do. And the doctor pulled up, and he said to him after, he said, wow, he said, that's amazing. He said, how do you manage to train your dog that way? He said, I can't teach mine to do a single trick, he said. The man glanced in his simple, yokel, rustic look and said, well, you see, it's this way. You have to know more than the dog, so you can learn him. If you don't know more than the dog, you can't learn him nothing. True. Tozer said this, our supreme need is to know God. Our supreme need is to know God. That was Martin Lloyd-Jones, sorry. Tozer said this, what comes into your minds when you think about God? When I mention God, what comes to your mind? That is the most important thing about us, because we tend to move toward our mental image of God. When I say God, what do you envisage when I say that? So important to know. To know him is so, as we've been looking at, to know him. Do we really know him? It's so powerful, the question it could be anonymous, as we said before, don't know him, far from him, ever learning but never coming to know. An acquaintance, as we looked last week. Oh, Lord, didn't we eat and drink? Didn't you teach in our street? He said, I don't know where you are, I don't know where you're from. Or someone who was just made in our image, and we were just talking to Carol this morning, and she was saying about people, how they change their thinking and on some really important issues in the church. And I said, the trouble is, I said, Romans 1 is very clear. When we have a God of our own making, our thinking and there's no such thing as absolutes then. They can be anything we want them to be. See, God is God. He doesn't change. We want to change him in our own image and squeeze him down to our level, but he never is and he never will be. And the trouble is, once we begin to do that, he becomes small and our fears magnify. David's last words to Solomon, his last advice, I suppose. Last words are really important, aren't they? Because really, we can say many things, but when we know it's our last words, we want them to count, and we want them to be have a sense of weight. And this is what he said to his son, Solomon. I should say, he said Solomon. 1 Chronicles 28, you can find about half a dozen things he told Solomon. But the first thing he said to Solomon is, know God. Know the God of your father. The God I knew and the God I followed, and you could see it through David's life. You could see it in all that he did. And his heart was for the God, and all he wanted to know was God. He said, oh, Lord, that I would, again, get back into the house of the Lord to know him. And the Bible says, God says, he's man after my own heart, because he just wanted to extol the Lord. And he said that the last thing he said to Solomon was, know the Lord your God. Know the Lord your God. Our supreme need is to know him. Well, again, as we looked, of the difference, not knowing him, and of course you have to make up a lifestyle, a purpose. Then we know about him, but again, that's so impersonal, but we can know him. And God wants us to know him more. And how do we do that? Well, like any other relationship, you spend time, you talk, you commune, you listen, as we said last week. But the Bible does give us again some pointers. We looked at 1 John the other day, give the test if we are really children of God. And again, the Beatitudes, Matthew 5, 6, and 7, tell us the difference in knowing God and not knowing him. And so we're going to look at that tonight, to see the difference that God actually makes when we know him. Now, in the Bible, he talks about, and of course it's not just a group of people, the Gentiles, we Gentiles, but it's really a metaphor for those who are outside of the covenant of God, those who really, in one sense, don't know anything about God. And remember, all of us are in the same boat. Unless God draws us, unless God opens our eyes, we are far from him. And so we're going to look at the difference. And Jesus in the Beatitudes says a number of things. Do not be like the Gentiles. In 3 different areas, and we pluck another one from somewhere else. So the difference in knowing and not knowing. And again, the test is, where are we? Do we really know the Father? Do we really know him? Because the Beatitudes, really, Jesus was blowing their thinking, because he revealed God as Father. Remember how many times we said? 17 times he used the word Father, which he was trying to say something. God is God, yet he's as close as and wonderful as your Father. Now, and I've said it many times, some of us, maybe all of us, need to revisit fatherhood. Some of us had good fathers. Some of us had really bad fathers. Some of us had no fathers. And we need to revisit that, because again, if we don't understand fatherhood, we will always misunderstand the God of the universe. And God doesn't want that at all. And that's why the devil's ploy is to destroy family life. It really is. He loves to destroy family life. Why? Because in the family, we understand security, we understand sacrificial love, we understand all those selflessness, because we parents are selfless, aren't we? Generally. Dad, can you take me here? Dad, can you take me there? See your mother. Dad, can you lend me a $5? Dad, can you lend me a $10? And in families, we see just a manifestation of what God is trying to do. So, of course, he says Gentiles, and what does he say a number of times? The cross is foolishness to Gentiles. So he's just trying to get us to picture. He said, no longer walk as the Gentiles do in the futility, the depravity, I suppose, the emptiness of results of their minds. See, outside of God, all that we think, all that we do is empty, has no result, has no final result. It certainly has no eternal result outside of God, is there? Because it'll finish when we finish. It'll finish when we die. The Bible says in Romans 1, when our thinking becomes foolish, it becomes futile, and then ultimately it becomes filthy. That which is filthy we think is normal and normative. And we're at that stage, sadly, now. And the Bible says a very dangerous place, because the Bible says he gives them over. And once we're given over to our thinking, we're in trouble, because there's little turning back then. But thankfully, I believe God is still merciful to our nation. Don't know why, because we've been blessed, haven't we? God has blessed our land. Britain, Wales, God has been good to us. Yet today, man is in charge of his own destiny, we said, but God. So to know him and the futility, the Gentiles, and that's the metaphor he's using. And of course, he's talking about do not live like that. How do they live? The Gentiles live in their sensuality, their passion, their drunkenness, orgies, drinking parties, lawless idolatry, 1 Peter 4 says. 1 Thessalonians says, do not live, control your own body in honor and holiness, not in the passionate lust like the Gentiles who do not know God. So there's our picture. Gentiles, a metaphor for those who don't know God. Don't know God. Thankfully, God has called us to know him. Now, again, the difference between the Jews who had the opportunity to know him, because God said, I'll put my hand upon you. I created you just to show what I could do with the people that know me, that would follow my ways. And if you do that, I will show you to the world to show how wonderful it is if you live under my governance. It is amazing, isn't it, that God would ever want to be involved in our lives. That he would, but he does. And he says to the Jews, seek me, and you'll find me. Follow me, and I'll be with you. Seek me, and you seek me with all your heart, and I will be found of you. Bless the Lord. And he says the same thing to us, doesn't he? In the Beatitudes, ask. We should sing, ask, 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 and it shall be given. Seek, 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 and you shall find. The same principle is there. He can be found. Well, the first principle is the difference in loving. There's our first difference. And of course, I wanted to be alliterative, so I had to go with ours today. And in our relating. See, what does he say in Matthew 5? Love your enemies, oh Lord. Pray for those who get up your nose. Pray for those who persecute you. Because the Bible, he says, look, how is that any good that you love those who love you? What reward is that? Don't even the tax collectors do the same? If you greet only your brothers, don't everyone do that? Do not even the Gentiles do the same? See, that is natural love. Natural love is, oh, I like her, she likes me. I like him, he likes me. So we're okay. Friends, that's wonderful. But that's not the love of those who know their God. No. Those who know their God is a different love. We know the love, don't we? It is selfless. It is sacrificial. It's a love of choice, not of feeling, not of emotion. It rides above all those. Why? Because we have the love of God in our hearts. He's loved us. He's put it into our hearts. And if you can't love like that, then you must say that you don't really know God. Because if you know him, you know how much he loves you, and you can only but love those around. Easy? No. Natural? No. Supernatural? Absolutely. That's why Christianity is supernatural. It's supernatural. And thankfully, the Bible tells us what this love is. It's not something vague, is it? We go to 1 Corinthians 13, we find 15 descriptions of what it is and what it isn't. So we know what it is and we know what it isn't. Thankfully, there's our description right in front of us. What love is. Love is patient. Love is kind. Woohoo. It doesn't bite someone's head off. It doesn't keep a record of wrongs. You ladies, you've got to keep a record. Gives them away. Buries them. They're gone. Love. Thankfully, not just description, but, so often as we said, the personification. The Bible says, God demonstrated his love in this. While we were still in our sins, Christ died for us. We have the description, and if we're a little bit vague how that works itself out, we have Jesus before us. That is how to love. Do not love like the Gentiles love. Love those who love us, who pat you on the back, who give you this, I'll give them back. No, you love those unlovely people. Those that really get on your nerves. The neighbors that you think, oh, they got it again. All those. That's what love is. It's sacrificial. It's God's love. And it is supernatural. It isn't a natural love. It is supernatural. And because it's supernatural and the choice of the will, that's why God can command it. Because it does not involve emotion. Oh, I feel like loving. You know, there's some days you don't feel like loving. But you need God's love to love them. You know that in your relationship, innit? There's some days, you don't feel like loving. You feel like, didn't it? It's true. Be honest. But that's why God says, no, love. Love. This love never fails. Do not love like the Gentiles. So how is our relating today? How is your love? When was the last time you prayed for that person that left a mark on you? It may be 50 years ago, but it's left a mark on you. Pray for that person. Pray for that person. If they're dead and gone, pray, Lord, release me. Lord, I forgive them. I release them. See, in releasing them, you release yourself. Bless Lord, this love. What amazing love. How can it be? And of course, as we said before, this love is not just the fruit of discipleship. It's the test of true discipleship. And it's also the condition of discipleship. You see, you cannot be a disciple if you do not love. What does Jesus say? If you love your family, this, that, and the other, more than me, you cannot be my disciple. That is amazing. But it's supernatural, but it comes in knowing him. You see, when we know who Jesus is, how can we love anyone like him? There's no one like him. Only he's died to set me free. Only he's saw into the depths of my heart. He knows everything about me. He's seen everything I've done, everything I've wanted to do. Even the filth that I don't even know is there. He sees it all. Yet he loves me and he died for me. Then that is why he says, love me. Son, give me your heart. How can we not? How can we not give him our lives and love him? Then when we know him, we show him and we love him. We love him. Of course, as the Bible says, we said this morning, loving our enemies doesn't earn sonship, does it? It evidences it. It reveals it. And that's a great test today. How's your love? How's your relating to those around you? And God will definitely, and I said it before, definitely bring people in to your perimeter and in your life that you don't like. Naturally, you don't like them. Naturally, they will rub you up the wrong way. God will do it. God will do it. Why? Because he wants to grow that love in your heart. How about relationship? What does he say then in Matthew 6? Let me just say, he says, let me teach you how to pray. Do not be like the hypocrites, standing in the synagogues and on the street corners and making a loud hullabaloo. I tell you the truth, they'll receive their reward. But go into your room, pray to your Father who is unseen, then your Father who is unseen, but done in secret, will reward you. And when you pray, do not keep babbling like the pagans, for they think they heard because of their many words. Do not be like those Gentiles who speak, but your Father knows when you pray. How about our relationship with the Lord? You see, that's such a key. We talked last week, those who know their God will be strong and do mighty exploits. That, again, that context is people who see what's going on and do something, ultimately pray. They are people who grab hold of the Lord to change the course of the nation. Daniel, in that context, said, Lord, I saw from your word it was time for Israel to go back. And he got before the face of God and prayed. Why? Because he knew God was the only answer. Nehemiah, when he heard what was going on, those who know their God will be strong and do mighty exploits. He said, Lord, we are sorry we've gone far away, but you are the one that can turn it around. How about, what is our prayer life like? Many words. Well, just looked at a lady who was involved in Islam. Of course, they will pray 5 times a day. Now, we never denigrate their commitment. In fact, they put us to shame. We really do. Their commitment and their zeal. But, of course, they pray 5 times a day and they pray the same things. It's set in order so everyone knows where they are and what they're doing. And that's what the Bible calls meaningless repetition. Babbling like Gentiles. Why? Because there's no relationship. God is out there somewhere. What did Jesus say? How to pray. How to pray. Now, we've got to be careful because when I was in the Methodist church, we used to say the Lord's Prayer every week. And it's a great prayer. But we've got to be careful that we don't do the same thing as he's telling us not to do. Because he tells us this is how to pray, not necessarily what to pray. But ultimately, what he's saying is this. Father. He comes straight in. It's relationship. Father. That's why it's so vital to know Father. And to square up our thinking about Father. Trust, dependence, relationship. Oh, bless the Lord. Our Father who art in heaven. He is still the great, awesome God. And in that we see who we are, our dependence. The Bible says, be devoted to prayer. See, when we know him, we just want to speak to him. We really do. How can we not want to speak to him? For us who can remember that long ago when we started courting, we would spend hours talking, wouldn't we, to our spouse or future spouse. How much now? Well, it depends, isn't it? But you know what? We can understand that. Communication, and the more we know someone, the more we trust them, the more we trust their word. Or not trust them, of course. Because if we know someone, we know how valuable and how precious and how solid is their word. If I say to Jackie, I will do that, depending what it is, it doesn't hold a lot of water, because I will do it, but of course, Jackie, particularly, one of her, let's not say faults, one of her, she likes things done yesterday. And my mantra is this: doesn't matter how long it takes. No one ever says, how long did that job take? That's all they ever say, is it a good job or a bad job? Okay? Remember that, ladies? That's all they ever say, good, bad, or job. They don't say, how long did that take, do they? They say, that's a good job, Dave, or could have done better. My word, the more I know someone, the more I trust. And that's why relationship is so powerful. Because the more we know God, the more we trust him, the more we are intimate with him, because his word never fails, of course, does it? When he says something, you can guarantee it. You can put your life on it. So our prayer, do we babble? Is it emptiness? Are we praying to someone who's not there? Or when we pray is real? Because that's when we really know him. Our relationship is true and real. And when we say, Father, Abba, Father, we know that he hears. And there's his spirit testifies in my spirit that I know him. That's in relating. How about in rest? He goes on, and we looked at this maybe not long ago, just the other day, about the wonderful benefits of being a child of God. Of course, this is all about being a child of God. And of course, he says, do not be anxious. What you eat, what you drink, about your body, what you put on. And he points out that the natural mind is thinking about those. He says, do not the Gentiles seek after these things, yet your heavenly Father knows. Anxiety, fear grips us. We looked on Thursday at being stewards. We're not owners. Remember, everything we have is a gift. That's why we call each other gifts. Is a gift from God. So we are not owners, we are stewards. And one day we will stand before the Lord and he'd say, Dave, let's have a look at the books. What do you do with your time? What do you do with your money? What did you do with it? The things I give you, your talents, your gifting, what did you do with them? That's an awesome prospect. And that's not about salvation. No, that's nothing to do with salvation. It's to do with what God has given you. And so we say, Lord, help me to be a good steward. I'm not going to waste my time. I'm not going to waste my money. I'm not going to waste that which you've given me. Why? Because I'm only managing it for you, just this moment. The gift of relationships that you have around us, they're a gift from God. Treat them like that, isn't it? Treat them like that. Because they're a gift from God. And he says, do not the Gentiles run after these things, yet your Father knows them. And the fear will grip us and stop us. Matthew 25, he says, the man with the 1 talent, he said this, Lord, I knew your heart, I knew your harsh, I knew this, and I was afraid. His fear came from not knowing who God was, or actually not knowing and believing the lies. I believed you were this, this, and this, and that wasn't true. And if it was true, he didn't change his way anyway. His fear came from a wrong understanding of God, and because he didn't know him. Now, there is a fear and reverence of God. No, we're not talking about that. We're talking about a fear that paralyzes from doing what God's called you to do. Fear of worrying what other people think. Fear about worrying what you are and all the things. Fear that you've not sorted things out. Well, you need to sort things out. Maybe that's another question. But fear and worry. Oh, worry. What does worry do, doesn't it? It distracts us. Causes us to distrust the Lord. Doesn't it? Causes us to distrust the Lord. Lord, no. The Bible says your Father knows what you need. Trust him. Trust him. Naturally, again, our kids never woke up in the middle of the night, did they? Dad, I'm really fearful about what I'm going to wear tomorrow. I'm really fearful you're not going to feed me. No. They never worried about that. Why? Because we knew what they needed and we would supply the need. He's trying to, listen, don't distrust him. Let it not be a distraction either. See, our worries and fears can distract us from loving the Lord, from knowing him. It really can. And those anxieties, the Bible says, are like thorns that choke the word of the Lord in us. They really do. The cares of this life distract us and destroy God's word in our lives. He said, don't do it. Don't worry. Look, he said, and he gets us again. Open your eyes, consider the natural things, see what God's doing. See, if we know him, our rest and repose is wonderful. Sometimes we're thinking, Lord, I don't know what's going on here. Absolutely. But he does. He knows what's going on. All we need to make sure is that we are knowing him. We are trusting him. We are relying upon him. Our lives are in his hands. We are staying close to him. And our rest and our repose is guaranteed. Why? Because he's Father. Your Father knows what you need. Do not worry. And he said, now change your thinking. Get after me. Serve me. Seek me. See me. Seek first the kingdom of God, he says. That's the antidote. And once you seek that first, when you've got a greater perspective, all these things shall be added. You don't need to worry about any of those things. The Lord will sort them out. Wonderful. Wonderful. Our repose. Our repose. When we know him, worry and fear have no place at all. Bless the Lord. The psalmist, what did the psalmist say? When I am afraid, bless the Lord, I will put my trust in you. I will not be afraid. What can man do to me? Do not fear, the Lord said, I'm with you. Do not be anxious about anything, for I am your God. Bless the Lord. When I was afraid, I called on the Lord, the psalmist said. I sought the Lord. Bless him. And the last one is how to run and rule, I suppose. What does that mean? I love the disciples because they were just young men. And the young men are got plenty of energy, but they're not as bright as they think they are, of course. And we know that now because we're a bit older. But you know what? And twice this happened before, and he was saying, they came one day and said, who's the greatest in the kingdom of heaven? Because that's what our boys and men think. Who's the best? Who's the biggest? Who's the great? Who's the strongest? And we, of course, we watch all these things that some of us who like sport. And Jesus, I love Jesus because he says, brings a little child in, doesn't he? The most weakest thing that you could think of, a little child. He said, no, it's the greatest, he said. Anyone who would want to come into the kingdom has to be like a little child. Was total faith, total trust, total dependence on their parents. That's how you come. And I will look at Matthew 20 in a minute. But even after he told them in Matthew 18 and Matthew 20 about being servants and about God is great, even on the last day when Jesus said, Last Supper, I'm going to die, around the table, John 13 tells us, they were still arguing who was the best, who was the greatest. Even the Lord already told them. So this moment in the Last Supper, he just takes their thinking and blows it apart, because he takes off his outer coat, he gets down and washes their feet, which is the lowest of the low. The least servants would wash dirty, remember, not clean feet like yours. Yeah? No. They've just been walking through dirt and dust, filthy feet. And he said, this is what I want you to be, servants. And he says, and of course, this particularly in Matthew 20, James and John's mother, of course, mothers always want their best for their kids, don't they? And she came and said, oh, look at James and John, two good boys. He said, yeah, they're good lads. She said, do me a favor. Yeah, he said, no problem. He said, when you get into the kingdom, put James on the right and John on the left, or either way, it doesn't matter. And the Lord said, no. That's not, number one, that's not mine to give, and there's already been placed there. And can you drink of the cup I'm going to drink? And they said, yes, we can. And he said, yes, you will. And they were martyrs for the Lord. They did drink. They did pay the ultimate price for their faith. And I love the picture then. And as soon as the disciples found out, the other 10 young men, they were livid. Oh, how dare you? You know why? Because they hadn't asked first, I think. That's probably why. And they were tamping. They were tamping. And then Jesus brings it down and says, no. Let me tell you this. The rulers of the Gentiles, this is how they behave. This is how they lord it. This is how they run things. This is how they rule things. Not you. He said, I am a servant. I've come to serve. He uses two words there. The diaconus, the one who waits on the table and who ministers. But he also uses the word doulos. He he became the form of a servant. That is a real slave, where the will is consumed by the master's will. He said, this is who I was. I didn't come to be served. I could have. I come to serve and give my life a ransom for many. See, that is the change when we know him. It's, as we said this morning, we're here to glorify God. It's not about you anymore. Nothing to do with you. I know him, and I'm going to show him. Bless the Lord. I was created to know him. Chief aim of man is what? To glorify God and enjoy him forever. That is the chief aim and goal of man. So this night, again, our question is, do we know him? We know about him. Many of us, we've been in church for many years. Most of us know a lot about him. But the question is, when we begin to ask those serious questions about our love, our relationship with the Lord, our conversation with him, our fears and our worries, and the way if we're any place of leadership, or how we run our own lives, I wonder if that comes through. It's a great story about Michelangelo, one of the great geniuses of history, I suppose. If you've ever been to the Sistine Chapel, to look at that is just absolutely, mind-boggling. But Michelangelo knew a lot about God. He obviously was in the church at that time. But you know what? It wasn't until just a few years before he died that he knew God. And just about 4 or 5 years before he died, he did a sculpture called Nicodemus. Nicodemus came to Jesus and said, Jesus, we know you think you're from God, but what's this about? He said, Nicodemus, you need to be born again. And this sculpture of Nicodemus, he put his own face, he sculptured his own face as Nicodemus. This is what he said. Neither painting nor sculpture can any longer quiet my soul. See, he took great delight. That was his delight in life. That fed him. But of course, it was a substitute for God. And we do that, don't we? And it wasn't until many years later he said, it could no longer quiet my soul. I've turned now to the divine love which is on the cross, that embraces us, that opened wide its arms to us. Michelangelo knew about God. Sistine Chapel tells us that. He knew a lot about God. But he needed an encounter with God, which was in his latter days. So all the things that he thought were his purpose in him meant nothing to knowing Jesus. Bless the Lord. And you know what? That's what he wants us tonight. Many of us know about him, but he wants us to know him and walk with him and be changed by him. And that changes our behavior, our priorities, our gathering together, our time with him. Bless the Lord. It's a challenge in our hearts. Let's pray. Thank you, Father, again tonight, that you want us to know you. Lord, the challenge is there. The change has to be seen. If there's no change in many areas, we just noted a few tonight. Lord, we must ask ourselves, do we know about him, or have we had an encounter with him? And are we growing, as Peter says, grow in the knowledge and the wisdom and the favor and the glory of God? Help us to grow in our knowledge of you day by day. Help us, we pray, for us who've never come to that place. Tonight we say, please, like that lady, reveal yourself to us. Make yourself known to us. We want to encounter you. Lord, we want to walk with you. Help us tonight to make that choice, to make that decision, to step over that line. In your name we pray. Amen. Let's sing lovely, as the deer pants for the water.